Luke, thank you so much for your time. It's great to meet you, and it's been great to get hands-on with the game because I feel like we've been talking about it forever.
Yeah.
Talk me through what I'm experiencing today.
So today we are giving you a short glimpse of what the game is all about. So that's why you get the introduction with how Nawe and Yasuke are both protagonists are not necessarily meeting into the world, but are what's their first step, the first beginning, and then we warp you up in time and places so you can have a full gameplay loop of how they work together, are they are tracking out targets, but as well as a good chunk of the open world and what to expect with all the different activities and location to discover.
But there's a lot of secrets left to discover because I don't really know how these two have connected yet, and I look forward to uncovering that in the future. But what can you tell me?
Actually, I want to keep it a real secret. We want to make sure that the player experience it on their own because we work really hard to make sure that both storyline craft past in a way that it's credible, it makes sense, but also it's something that it's rewarding for the player as well, and will make sense for the hours to play later that, and all the relationship grew up into a friendly manner, but how they get to work together against bigger evil.
誠旧壮大な武将であった。もはや戦なきこと。
Your career spans over 20 years since you were playtesting in the early 2000s to now. How does a game like this differ from what you started testing?
Yeah, the industry and the games themselves changed quite a lot, both due to our technical progresses and, as we can see also today with AAC Shadows, so we have dynamic lighting, we have dynamic weathers, we have also season change. So all of these weren't even unmanageable when I was young or when I started in the industry. So we did a lot of leap into the complexity of making those worlds, but at the same time, it's in order to make sure that the immersion is also increased. So it's everything is good. It's better for the player. So more immersive, a more believable character, more believable storyline.
I found the environments are destructive. Well, some of them are anyway. There was a big rack of fish, and I just went and hit it down, and it all just fell beautifully onto the ground.
So that was another part of the dynamic aspect. It's not just the weather or the season, the destruction or the wind effects, to make sure that, again, what you would expect in a real world to happen in this game. All of this to make it more believable than ever before.
I also discovered when there was a little boat going past and I climbed on it and it said I could basically hijack it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can whistle your oars, as you've seen in the introduction of the game, but also there are some boats that you can use to navigate because if you have a look into the map, we have some big rivers, some smaller stream, we have some ocean, we have a big lake in the center of the map. So to make it more useful for the player, we use that, but also both were a central part of the trade back then, so that's why also we want to put for that all that naval system.
Can you paint a picture to how big the game is? I feel like I'm only in a small area and I'm exploring everywhere and traveling thousands of meters at a time, and I have only unlocked a small area of the map here.
Yeah, so in terms of scale, we are much closer to what Assassin's Creed Origin were in terms of size, but we scaled it up in Assassin's Creed Shadows to make it a little bit more towards a one-on-one ratio. Well, in game you always exaggerate some of the scaling due to gameplay purposes, but here we try to be as much more one-on-one as we could.
Quests is probably your forte. You've got little quests scattered across the map. You stand on top of a landmark and I'm just seeing question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm like, where do I go first? There's a lot to go through, and I'm sure you've had a big part in most of them.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorites that you can't wait for people to experience?
one of my favorite. Actually, you were able to experience it in that preview event. Actually, I have two. One is with Iketan Ideye, the little boy. So we're in that time period there were some hostage exchanges. So to make sure that okay, if you betray me, then I will kill the significant one that I'm taking care of. So to be able to find a way to make it as a good plot device for the story we want to put forth, I think that was one of the key things that I liked a lot about is to make sure that we get inspired by historical events and put them forth into the narrative we want to convey. And the other one is the Tokubei quest line because it's bringing a more comical relief.
Tokube, you're quite naked.
Like it was times of war. Japan was in civil war for hundreds of years, and to having a bit of laugh in that grim time, I think it's as a player, it's also refreshing to have that turn of event and surprises that you come into the gambling den and expecting a big fight to happen, but he's fleeing. So to have that kind of surprises to the player on what they expect and what's really happening. So that's the key thing that I'm very proud that we can sprinkle them as surprises for the player.
No more! I can't run anymore!
Before making this game or getting involved with this game, did you know much about Japan?
Before I started working on Shadows, I thought I knew about Japan. But as any Assassin's Creed game, like we go so much deep and deep into knowing the new setting we are making, and it ends up with a few percentage of all the knowledge we gathered that make it to the game. But as an history aficionado, I love working on that franchise, and it's give us a great opportunity to learn even more than what the random history book would tell you, because we have access to key experts.
So do you consider yourself somewhat of an expert now?
I wish I could, but again, there's so much more, and it's also the ability to retain the information. Like, as you grow older, it's harder and harder to remember a lot of things. But yeah, I'm way ahead of where I was when I started the project.
Did you learn any of the language?
I tried really hard, but it wasn't easy on my side. But some people on the dev team really get into it and learn it quickly. But for myself, it was a little bit harder, unfortunately.
But you've learned a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Luc, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go get stuck back into the game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.